What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? It's Infinite Sauce Talk. It's Ralph here. It's been a minute. I think it's been a week and some change. I've been chilling. Actually, been arranging a couple of things. Trying to start some things real quick. Been rearranging my schedules and stuff like that. So, like I said, bear with me. I've been saying this for the past couple of episodes. Bear with me as I'm trying to get everything synchronized in a peaceful and beautiful manner so that I could give this source to you. You know what I'm saying? So getting right into it, I put up a poll just to get interactive a little bit, just to see what's going on out there. I had two ideas. Whether I was gonna do environmental trauma, which I think is gonna be a little bit more spicier. Now I'm going through the notes and everything like that. But people want preference versus standards. Now, this conversation has been going on for years. Debates on IG, debates on social media, debates on Twitter. You know, we call it Twitter when it's no X, fuck that. Twitter. And the basis of those arguments are usually what would you prefer? What's your ideal man or woman? What's your ideal person to be with? What kind of qualities that they should have? What kind of things that they should bring to the table before you even entertain it? Now, these arguments are always online and everything like that. But I want to get more deeper into that. And we had a conversation. The reason why this topic came up was when I used to chill with my peoples, weird ass peoples, you know what I'm saying? We still call them weird because actually somebody called us weird during Thanksgiving or whatever the case is. I'm going to need you to speak up. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to need you to elaborate. But anyways, we will always play dominoes and have these fucking debates about love and relationships and everything. Like we used to have these debates and everything like that. And that's how the idea of a podcast will come up like one day. And we talked about it. But it never came to fruition, you know what I'm saying? And there was one day where there was a topic. Now I have this recorded. And I was originally gonna play parts of it. But the issue with that is it has somebody's detailed life into it. And if I play it, it's basically snitching. And I said on this pod before, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to put people's business out there unless they want to put it themselves. And like I said, I can recommend somebody to hop on here and talk their truth and not expose themselves, but like teach others how to overcome things or, you know, how they dealt with that type of thing. But the topic was about body counts. Now, the reason I'm telling this now, because I want to get into the debate first before breaking this down and on giving you the understanding of standards and preferences. So it'll make much more sense once I break this down. Now, the topic was basically body counts. And if you had a number in your head of where you wouldn't cross the line. Let's say, for example, my people's had X amount of whatever. And if it was about the same, he wouldn't talk to them. Now, in this situation, from what I understand, that sounds crazy. So for a number would be like 50. If the dude would have 50 and Shorty had 50, he wouldn't even entertain it. He'd be like, oh, fuck that. Like, and most of us in the room was looking at him like, what kind of bullshit you talking about? And now he had a point where he said, that's my preference. That's what I like. Granted, understand it. I get that part where everybody has their own right of choosing things, how they want to, what they want in their life. Now, it comes to a point where you have the other side of the argument basically stating, okay, if I committed these atrocities, it's not even atrocities. If you was out here doing your thing, busting ass, God bless. You was enjoying life, cool, that's cool. But you cannot hold that same standard towards somebody else where you're looking at. And this was my argument for my other homie. My homie was basically saying, if I committed those errors or mistakes or choices that I made in my life, I cannot hold that towards the other person. I can't judge her. I can't look at her any different. Because I was out here. You know what I'm saying? If I was out here being a hoe, I can't fault her for being a hoe. And I can't even use that as a fucking excuse of me not seeing her because I was out here. It's basically being judgmental if I did that. Almost hypocritical of what you stand for. And the reason I say that is because I can't be out here, wilding the fuck out, doing my thing, coming home, taking a shower, going back to the streets, being in the streets, you know what I'm saying? Being out here. And when I see somebody, I want them to be a saint. I don't want them to be, let's put it even drastically, a virgin or something like that. Something pure. And it's, to be honest, it's almost hypocritical of getting to that point of when you view somebody because you've committed all those things and then you expect another person to behave differently. So my one homie was like, I have preference of somebody being under my body count and I don't give a fuck. And we all, the rest of us, especially my homie, was like, bro, we was all hoes at one point in time, or whatever the case is. We cannot hold that against somebody when we committed those type of errors. Like, though, that's crazy. So we was all in this argument. One side had the body count of, yo, I'm gonna need it to be my preference of the body count. The other side was, bro, it doesn't matter about her past. Like, you judge her as the person in the present. So we was all going back and forth for a good minute. And this conversation that was recorded was very interesting because we kind of came to a conclusion, but not even a conclusion, a question of, okay, everybody has their preference. Cool. You could prefer whatever the hell you want. That's cool. That's understandable. Everybody has their own standards, their own preferences. Cool. But the side that is almost the non-judgmental one, that one that accepts it, it doesn't matter what they did in their past, can explain why they accept it. But the issue with the other side, which is I have a preference of this number. So I think the number was, if the person had like 50 and the other person I think had 30, why would they deny the 31? The whole question to define why you think that way was actually the word why. Why will you deny somebody if you had 50 and somebody had 30, 25, whatever the fucking number was? Why would you turn them down? That was the main question. And I think we argued for how many because of the word why. And a lot of people can't explain it. And this is real facts. They can't explain why they have that preference, why they have those standards that may be too high, why they have those preferences that make no sense sometimes, or why do they have preferences that basically blocks their blessing almost. So we was trying to get from that side, why? Why do you have that preference? Why? And the question was never answered. So it was always in the air. There was another scenario. An acquaintance, somebody that been known for a while, got with somebody, fell in love with that person, had kids, accepted their kids and everything like that, got married, all that type of stuff. But before it got to all those glorious steps that the person went through with that person, somebody else knew about the history of the significant other. So they knew the history of the significant other that they were trying to build a life with. And when the person tried to introduce or even introduce the idea of what they was going to do with that person, respectfully, the person that had the information was like, yo, if you happy, yo, congratulations, yo, all the best to you. I just want to make sure that you are valid in what you know. I heard she was out here, this, that, and the fourth. You know, the regular shit that niggas know and whatever the case is. And he basically said that I love her, this, that, and the fourth, disregarded what this nigga said. And was like, all right, bet. If you happy, my nigga, God bless, dog. If that's your knight in shining armor, if that's your joy, if you have passed all that, knowing what it is, then yo, God bless, dogs. I'm happy for you. The saying goes, you like it, I love it. I'm the same way. I give you all the respect in the world. I give you all the love. May you prosper in that shit. So that was the second base of the argument. The second base was using that situation where somebody knows your past, what your transgressions were back then, all the mistakes that you made, all that stuff, and you have this information. Would you knowingly that somebody knows out there in public what these situations are from that significant other, would you stay with her or would you ride it out? So, to give you a synopsis of the debate was one, if I have a higher body count than the next person and I want to pursue something with the next person, would I deny it or would I pursue it due to that? And what preference would I have? And the part one was the question that we had was if you make that decision, why? And that's part one. One was very important because it was the question of why you made that decision where you have two times the body count of a person, but you'll look at them differently if they have that amount. Then the second part was if I know somebody that has the information on my significant other that they committed X, Y, and Z, would I still be with them or would I not? So again, we was debating for a good minute. And it got to a point where it was like there had to be a scenario to find the mindset of the other side, which is the side of preference without looking at themselves. And somebody brought up a great point. Somebody was like, okay, if you want to talk body counts, part one. So if you knew Shorty was a porn star, that she was out here, I don't know if I can say porn star, but whatever, porn star, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Because, you know what I mean, people censor shit nowadays. But Shorty was a porn star and whatever the case is, you knew that. And they give you a breakdown of what they want. And they want your ass. Would you entertain this shit knowing that they've worked in that industry and decide that has their own preferences about body counts or whatever and what they situation, the way that they wanted to was like, yes, I would do it because that's what I want to do. And this is where I can tell you preferences are different than standards because preferences can sometimes be delusional. Sometimes it can be borderline hypocritical. Sometimes it could be something that you can't expect yourself to do. And this is where preferences are different than standards in every single way because preferences can change. And standards is a little bit more foundational towards beliefs and morals and high grounds and certain things that you won't change. Somebody told me it was non-negotiables. And I remember in my old job, we had a conversation about non-negotiables. And the woman that I worked with had very high standards in terms of finding a husband. They wasn't finding a boyfriend out here. They was trying to find a husband. And I respect them for that because that's their standard. That's what they wanted to do. Now, standards can also be about wants, but standards don't usually change. It's usually a foundational thing. It's usually something about morals and respect and I want somebody to treat me right and I want somebody to be loving, caring, to communicate with one another, to understand one another, to be one another. It's more of a foundational thing with standards. Standards is something that is tied to you that you won't waver. If there had to be a way of maneuvering, you won't waver with standards because standards come from within oneself. Standards come from within morals and certain things that you will accept from even a respect level. So when somebody says that they have high standards, it could be that they want something that benefits not only them, but it also benefits the whole team within that person and their significant other. So a lot of times when people be like, I got high standards, okay, so what you're talking about? And people confuse the word standards because standards is more of a, you can't change standards because it's almost like a rule within yourself. It's almost like a law within yourself versus preferences that you would prefer to. The word within itself, like if you had a choice, you would prefer to go there. Where standards is more of, if let's say for example you have a company, they have their values, morals, and standards. Standards usually don't change unless it's a major change, a major drastic thing. With preferences, if you get a choice, you will prefer to go. So when people confuse standards with preferences, it's a big misconception with the word itself. So when people say they have high standards, they better explain that shit. And that shit better be valid because of the word itself, standards. Preferences, you could say it's preferences. And I feel like that's 99% okay to have that. But in terms of standards, the standards is more of speaking on your moral ground of how you will accept or won't accept things. And that's what the standard is. So the standard part I won't go into deeply because it's more of a solidified view of a person to where they can hold up to in regards to relationships, and that would be almost non-negotiable. So I feel like with standards, the words non-negotiable should go next to it. So one big part one of standards, if you go against standards, you really can't beat it because it's almost non-negotiable. That's why I won't go deep into standards, because standards are almost non-negotiable. So yes, have your standards, have something to stand by basically, and go abide by it. And those are your standards basically. Now we go into the big pool. That's part one. Part one is standards. And part one with standards is not too in depth. It's almost solidified. It's almost built by brick and stone and everything like that. But the fluid motion and the changes and everything that is almost debatable every single day is preferences. Preferences is the idealistic picture you would paint in terms of the dream person. And you take those characteristics and you split them into these little preferences. Now, it's what you can handle. And I say can because it's not must. It's not like standards that you must do this or you will or will not do that. It's not like standards. Standards is more solidified. But in terms of preferences what you can handle and what you want to desire and what you want to deal with. Now, preferences, like I told you before, preferences can change all the time and at any time. You prefer ice cream one day and be like, I'd rather prefer something else another day. Like it's usually interchangeable at times. And the reason I say it could change is because, let's say, for example, you have a preference of, let's be ignorant today. Let's say you got a preference of snow bunnies because, they're easier to deal with. Then I heard that before. And that preference I felt like is stupid as shit. But it's someone with logic and reason and come up with facts of there's a reason why you should go outside and explore your race. One, because you're confining yourself within one race, so you shouldn't prefer one race alone. You should go out and explore, and it gives you more options. And somebody provides these facts, it can change. After that, you might prefer something else after a while. And that could be due to changing your mind. That could be due to a new experience. That could be to exploring things. That could be towards many things. So it could change. So somebody that's African American that can only see somebody that's their soulmate that could only be African American is hindering themselves from maybe somebody that's Caucasian that could treat you better. Somebody that's Hispanic could treat you better. Somebody that's from a Muslim faith could treat you better. Somebody that's from Asia that could treat you better. There's so many aspects of somebody can show that to you and prove it to you. Okay, this is what it is. And somebody can change their mind. Like, to go and piggyback to the example, I've talked to people that were Puerto Rican, and it was like, oh, I will only date Puerto Ricans. So you're hindering yourself to an island. instead of exploring the world, or somebody that is willing to give you that chance can be from somewhere else, but you're blocking your blessing because you want to be cornered in to your own beliefs and your own system, and you want it to be the same, and you wanted to conserve certain things. Sometimes different flavors might change your life, and that is facts. And when somebody can provide that proof towards a person that has a certain preference, that might change their mind. But again, there's nothing wrong with having preferences. It's just blocking out and having a locked in preference is a little bit detrimental to yourself. And the reason I'm saying this is because a preference can be a thin line between acceptable and hypocritical in a sense, or even detrimental to yourself. Like I showed you the examples of African Americans or Puerto Ricans, or you could use any Hispanic country, or you could use any Asians, and a lot of people do have different traditions and customs and everything like that. So they stay within their own, but they don't never explore. There could be plenty of things that can hinder you or call you hypocritical. Race is one thing, and that is a whole different topic that I'll speak on later. But there are certain preferences that can be almost to the delusion part. And I'm going to play a clip that will show that.
Younger, 34.
34? What you do for a living, honey?
Well, I used to work. I'm currently unemployed. So I'll just be honest. I'm unemployed right now, but I do work hard and take good care of myself. I'm just looking for work right now. So
why are you unemployed? Did you just lose your job, or you've been unemployed for a while?
Well, I actually resigned because I want to get into like the Atlanta scene. My job took a lot of my time. So I kind of want to, I'm 34, I'm almost 35, and like, I kind of want to get into the scene and get out, but at the same time, it's like, I really don't like the attention.
So, a couple of things. How are you paying your bills if you're not working?
I just left my job like 2 weeks ago, so I'm okay until I find something else.
Does the guy have to look a certain way?
Yes.
Okay, how does he have to look, honey?
Just handsome and confident. Athletic.
Okay. He has to be athletic.
Tall, please tall. Like, I'm used to tall. I used, like, when I was younger, and I was, like, hot, hotter. I would say, like, 6'5", but I go, like, 5'11", something around 6 feet. Yeah.
What about money? Does he have to make a certain amount of money?
It has to be successful.
Is there a money part to that?
Not at the moment, no.
Because I was going to say, no judgment, but you actually are not working right now.
No. Mm-mm.
So would you consider yourself successful?
Very, yes. Very.
So would you date a man without a job?
No, I wouldn't, to be honest, no.
But you want him to date you without a job?
Oh my God. I had to say that when I was going through my IG scrolls, you know what I'm saying? Just out here, and I seen that. I was like, bro, this is the type of shit we gotta deal with, bro. Especially by experience, this is type of things that we gotta deal with as a man, for me, as a single man, as just being out there in general, bro. We gotta deal with that type of shit, bro. And this is not only towards relationship. This is a human being thing in general, bro. Like, your expectations and your preferences is wild. For example, in this clip, and I'm bringing this clip just to put as a reference of what the fuck is going on with preferences. She stated that she was unemployed and she lost her job 2 weeks ago. But wants somebody to take care, not even take care, wants somebody to be successful, to have money and all that shit. But you lost your job, bro. Like, how you expecting that type of treatment when you don't have it? This is where preferences, this is why I said people fuck up in these parts. In the first part, what I was stating was the argument that we had before. You have a higher body count, and then the person with the lower body count, you could look at them differently because they did some bullshit. They was like, oh, but you can do that. This is where preferences go wrong. This is where I think it's very unfair for somebody to have a preference when you don't even got it yourself. Before I continue, there was somebody on IG again as well, basically asking a female all these questions about what they want, what kind of money should a man make, what kind of person should he be, what kind of professional kind of should he be the household breadwinner? Should he just take care? Excuse me. Should he just take care of her, and she should just stay home and chilling? And the person that asked him the questions was like, "Yo, so why won't you become that? Since you want that so bad, you become that." And the person was shut. Like they didn't say shit. And this is exactly what's going wrong. What's going wrong as of right now is people expect things and won't do it themselves. For example, going back to the clip I played, the girl's unemployed. Been unemployed for 2 weeks. Granted, we all have situations where we could lose our jobs, all that shit. You know what I'm saying? But if you are unemployed, don't have a job and shit like that, but you won't date somebody that doesn't have a job, that literally was like, no, I won't date somebody, but you are in the same situation. So why give the person that you're giving expectations that chance when somebody that's equal your level, you're not even gonna look into? And that's the problem with a lot of people. A lot of people, even the man Kevin Samuels, rest in peace to that man. Like he was saying, like a lot of people are delusional, and he was talking about men and women. Usually he does the whole thing about women, but he used to, before he went into going into preaching about women, yo, he was ripping the life out of dudes, and he was telling them about themselves. And he said, bro, y'all expectations is too much, especially when you're not really doing shit. And in the situation in the clip, she's unemployed, but won't date somebody that's unemployed. That's fucking crazy. That sounds wild, because it's like, bro, they're in the same situation that you in, but you won't entertain it. But you want somebody to be successful. You want somebody to have bread. Like, bro, that's, do it yourself. That's what that person in IG, the clip, I gotta find it for um the next part, because this is gonna be parts. I'm telling you right now, this is gonna be parts. But anyways, going back to the clip lady, she also, besides being unemployed and wishing that somebody had bread that they could date them, she also don't like the attention but wanted to get into the scene. So how are you gonna get into the scene when you don't like the attention? Just something has to give. Whether you're gonna have to accept the attention and get into the scene, or just comply with what you're doing. Something has to give. And then she wanted the person to be athletic, handsome, confident, all that shit. All that shit is cool. And so I seen the clip and I was like, bro, I said, yo, there's no, like, you have to be reasonable with yourself. And I'm not saying that people wish way beyond their means, but they do. And in that clip, the lady did not look super attractive to, or to require somebody that's handsome, confident, athletic. They didn't look that. So again, going back to the original scenario, I said, do it yourself. The person said, do it yourself. If you can't do it yourself, don't ask for it. The other thing about preferences, there's certain preferences that people cannot control, and I feel like it's super unfair. For example, the height situation. Most women want a tall man, 6'1", six. The girl says 6'5", bro. I don't know how many people in this world are 6'5", dogs. So imagine you're already battling again, using the example of Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels used to break this down beautifully. He was like, yo, 6'5", okay. So how many dudes are 6'5" in the United States? So you're breaking down 330 million people in the US, and then break down the people that are 6'5". Then, and that's only one feature. Then you break down whatever else you want, and you're gonna come up with a number. And usually that number was point 0 whatever, and people would be like, but I can hit that. And it's like, yo, you ain't hit the lottery, so what the fuck are you talking about? You can hit that number. That's stupid. That's illusion. But people again have preferences where some people can't control that. So you could be the nicest person in the world, have the most wealthiest job and everything like that, and you're discounted because you're not 5'11", and that's crazy. And in that situation, I think it's unfair. And it's not only towards women in terms of like the height thing, the dudes also do it too with the body thing or the looks thing. So you got to be some type of pretty in order for us to even look at you. And that's mostly our vision in life. Like, yo, you have to be somewhat attractive for me to like you. And you might even get more infatuated the more you're pretty. We have that conception. So women have things where they want somebody to be 6'1", 250, built athletically. Financials have to be 250 to 500,000 type of thing, and we have things where we look at curves and your looks, and you got to be pretty, you got to be outside with me, and you got to be my trophy thing. Like, we have wrong views in terms of preferences, but again, I repeat it again, we have our every right to have our preferences and our choices. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just how you go about those preferences. And the question that we impose, not only from the dude with the body count and everything like that, but in these scenarios is why you have those preferences. And the why answers questions on how you are as a human being or how you look at things in terms of relationships. The why in general can define your preferences between being acceptable preferences and delusional or unfair preferences. So in terms of women, some women want somebody that's 6 foot or above or 6'5", like this lady wanted, make 200K or more, and want those preferences, and is in her every right to have those preferences. But the issue with that, those can't be a core look for a relationship, because you have to look at yourself first before you can go and be like, oh, I want this. So if you want that, what about you? What are you doing to gather that type of person? Same thing with men. Man, some men want Meg the Stallion, Chloe Bailey, Sweetie, whew. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know three of them are like woof to me, you know what I'm saying? But what am I doing to get that type of caliber woman? Like, you know what I'm saying? If I wanted that to be my core look, what am I doing? I can't be out here just on some lazy shit and trying to pursue them. You can't be out here stagnant. You got to be doing your thing to get that type of caliber. And even so, that caliber might not be that caliber that you think, because that person could be way different than what you ever thought. And you're only going off of looks. And this is where you look deep inside. Both men and women look deep inside. Look into yourself. What can you offer? Can you offer those things that you're asking for? And if the answer is no, be reasonable with your preferences. Don't be out here wishing up a star and you ain't shit. That's usually how it goes. And this is the problem with society nowadays. We want way more than what we are willing to work for. And to be honest, that's not a way to go. Because usually what I got taught in my life was I pray to Lord for everything that I want and everything that I need in my life. And then I go and get it. Because I want to have the power to get that stuff with the help of God also. I don't mean to be all spiritual about it, but this is real shit. I pray to the Lord. I go and get it after I pray. And in terms of preferences, bro, sometimes you gotta go and get what you want. And in that same aspect, you can have those preferences if you're working towards being in that same level. That's what people fail to understand. You can want something, but you also got to be about it. Be about your preferences. Be about what you want. You want somebody that got 6 figures, yo, go make them 6 figures. You know what I'm saying? You want somebody that wants to be sexy, go and be sexy. Go and do that. Because you'll get that. Once you get there, you'll have somebody on the same level. And it's going to be way easier that way. So align your preference with your standards. And therefore, in that aspect, when you align it somewhat towards your standards, there's no breaking that. And on top of that, it's going to be reasonable. So when you maneuver around, when you look around to what you want, it's actually aligned to exactly what you want, which brings up, keep the same energy. The same energy that you give out, you should want back in return. It all correlates. Somehow, some way, these topics correlate with each other. That energy that you want to be reaching out there in terms of your preferences, what you're looking for, you should want and give that same energy. And again, correlates to keep that same energy, which we'll talk about later on in a couple episodes down the road. But your preferences should be flexible. You should rely more on your standards and understand that those standards can get you far. Preferences could get you the sweeter bonuses or the little bonuses that we used to play as little kids. We used to go into a bonus round. That's exactly what preferences are. If you have that mindset of having your standards respected and looked at with the utmost appreciation, you're valid. When you find somebody that meets your standards and can apply to your preferences, that's a fucking beautiful thing. And that's what we need to learn. We need to learn to align those two into finding somebody. Instead of having these loose preferences where they could be debunked by the question of why, or you can't even answer the question why because you have some type of hidden agenda or some type of reason of you're rejecting your own blessing. That's usually how it is. So again, preferences, flexibility on preferences don't have to be end all be all. Respect your standards. Have those standards as your core beliefs, your core values, and everything like that. And if you align those two, you'll be valid. Before I head out, I'll tell you about my experience of preferences and standards. Now, in my situation, I'll be very brief. So, in my situation, I've been chilling for almost 2 years, 2.5, 3 years around there. And I've dated here and there. I've basically had some situations where I put it on the dating market episode and everything like that. And in terms of standards, my standard on myself and my principal standard is my peace. And I feel like peace alone should be a standard for everybody. Because that is not only a relationship thing, that is a human being thing. If you can't have peace in your life, you're always going to have turmoil. Why do you want somebody that brings you turmoil? So peace has to automatically be a standard because that's a whole core value there, that you want your peace and tranquility in your life. So if somebody violates that or deters you from that, bro, that should be automatic, dog. And that's referring to the previous episode I had from Dating Market where Shorty will argue with me every single day after 3 weeks of talking beautifully. And then after that, after we started arguing every single day for like a week and some change during my birthday week and everything like that. And I was like, yo, fuck that. There's no way. Like, that was a standard I had. I was like, bro, I am going to keep my peace and tranquility. So I had to be like, oh, I'm out with that. Because you're violating it's not a preference, it's a standard of mine of having peace and tranquility. So if you violate that, you're gone. And that's usually how you got to look at standards. Standards are core things, foundational things that cannot be moved or cannot be changed. So on that part, her and future people after that, bro, my peace and tranquility was first. So if you can't provide the same energy with where you want peace and tranquility as well, for not only for yourself, because that's more importantly yourself, but for the other person as well, nah. Dip on them, peace out. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, I'm not a want none of that shit. So that was the standard of mine. I want my peace and tranquility. And so should you. So if we're not on that same level, then that's why I'm chilling. But in that same work, like I used to have a preference of just wanting African American woman. I love African American women. That is my. I think people know me off of that shit. It's like, yo, he loves his chocolate, and I do. But I cannot limit myself to that. I'm open to my options, and I've always been open to my options. But I always gravitated towards African American women. But in the situation that I'm in now, I feel like everybody deserves a fair chance. I can't just limit myself to African American women. If somebody comes up in the near future and I'm attracted to them and I want to pursue something because I see so much value in them, then they deserve a chance. You know what I'm saying? But I also still have my preferences of I have to be attracted to you. You know what I'm saying? The same vice versa. You can hold me to that same preference and standard. Like you can hold me to that. There has to be chemistry. There has to be love and understanding and compassion with one another. The desire to be one within the relationship. Like that's I think a standard within itself. But the preference would be that we would have to physically be attracted to each other one way or the other. It doesn't diminish the looks part of it. After a while. You can't just disregard that. It's human nature that we want somebody that we like and see. So it's human nature. So I won't deny that. But that preference doesn't limit me from my options because it is not a very core important thing. But like I said before, it's a bonus round. It's something that is an incentive. So why not have that preference? And like I said, everybody's entitled to their preference. And that is my preference is to get somebody that I can click on all levels and be attracted to them. So those are my preferences and standards, and I've been working on for a good minute. And I still keep working on it because obviously things change every day. So preferences could be a different thing. But I'm also working on me so that when those preferences hit, I'm already covering all my bases. That's what we're supposed to do. And then we could concentrate on standards and come to an agreement. And that agreement becomes love. And I'm over here being poetic and shit. So that is my preference and standards. My argument and my stance on the whole thing. Like I said, to come to a conclusion, preferences can be flexible, make it reasonable, make it something that's like an incentive. Standards is your core beliefs, your core values, shit you standing on. You standing on business, that's what standards is. You standing on business with stuff. That you basically have things where you can't change. And they will have to respect your standards, whoever they are. And they're non negotiable. So that is my stance on preference versus standards. This is going to be part one. Part one is a monologue because obviously I'm talking from me, from my perspective, from my own pod. What I would like, and this is real shit, is the original contributors from that conversation, somebody or anybody. I wish all will contribute with that conversation. I feel like we need to have a remix of it or a continuation of preference versus standards because there is a lot of situations that you could put within preferences and you could argue it, and there's a lot of situations where people think that standards can be changed as well. So what I'm doing is this. What I'm doing is extending an olive branch towards the people that had that conversation. There's no beef, none of that shit. None. I feel like it's just things that conversations that I kind of miss because those are deep conversations where people would be passionate about it and we would learn about each other and understand each other more from that. Whether it's good or bad, it didn't matter, but we had deep and thoughtful conversations. So I would like to bring the original people to an area so where we can do this in a live session where we can use the mic and everything like that and actually get this down because there is a lot of interesting views on this topic alone. So I'm extending the olive branch. I'm not gonna be weird like people be saying that I be doing, or I be nah, bro. Like, yo, let's do this. Let's get this work. You know what I'm saying? Let's just get this conversation out there. And if other people that want to get into this conversation as well, you're more than welcome. The people that care for me and love me, y'all know my number. Y'all know my contact information. Y'all could definitely hit me and we could definitely talk about this. Whether we could talk about this live or however you want to do it. I just want this to be a conversation to be out there. Because there's a couple of things that we have to improve in terms of preferences and even standards as well. So please get this conversation out there. Environmental trauma is next. I'm definitely gonna talk my shit on there because there's a couple of things I have to address on that motherfucker. But if anybody has any input, any ideas, any emotional outbursts, anything that can help, not only my shit, but the world in general in terms of improving, because this is all about improvement. This is all about teaching and giving lessons and giving advice, bringing exposure to these conversations because I feel like it's needed. So again, like I said, environmental trauma is next. That'll probably drop next week. Hopefully, I have my schedule a little bit lighter by then. But God willing, we'll be here. We'll talk about environmental trauma. There's, like I said, a couple things we gotta address. And this is Infinite Source Talk. We are out of here. Hit my line up, y'all weird ass motherfuckers.